Hey everybody, David Patrick Green, davidpatrickgreen.com, hackhollywood.com, here with my longtime companion, associate, and fellow actor, Jason Liles.
What's up?
So just thought, since I haven't spent a lot of time personally with Jason, we'd make a little video and talk about maybe some of the things that actors that are just starting out need to know about the business that they may not otherwise hear. So,
how much time do we have?
Yeah, how much time do we have? Well, you know, I don't know. What are some of the things that you think are different from the way you've done things? And well, you know what? Before we get into that, let me just say, Jason has had an amazing amount of success in a relatively short amount of time. You've now done 3 feature films.
3 feature films, 2 that people know about.
2 that people know about. One we can't talk about yet.
One coming up.
You'll know about it. Maybe when it comes out, I'll maybe do an add-on or something. But anyway, Rampage,
Death Note.
Death Note. Yeah. Show the swag.
You got the swag going. Yeah. Death Note.
And Jason lived in New York. How many years ago?
3 years ago. I'd been there for 6 years, then moved to LA 3 years ago.
Okay, so he lived there 3 years ago, and he moved to LA and has now done 3 feature films back to back to back. And would you say that was like, you know, was it hard to figure out? Like, you know,
no, not hard to figure out. It was just a matter of constantly figuring out stuff by trying it, kind of wanting to metaphorically hit a baseball, and so just swinging until I figured out how to hit it and hit it more consistently and hit it further. And if I thought, oh, well, that's never going to work, then, well, let's try it and see what happens.
Okay. Let me ask you a loaded question. Okay. So, what do you think the rules for success are in Hollywood or any other acting town?
There are no rules.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that.
There are no rules. If there are rules, then breaking them should be a rule. Breaking the rules should be a rule, because most people don't do that. And if you do that, it's usually oh, well, there's 5 steps to get from A to, well, what if you just skip all those steps and just go there? That's a rule that a lot of people break. They think you have to go through the steps, but if the most direct path from A to B is straight to B, then just do that.
That sounds pretty good. And we were even discussing over coffee a minute ago how sometimes what you think is a rule, because everybody at a certain level thinks it, but they've never tested it, turns out to be the opposite of the real rule, right? Like,
yeah.
Don't contact people, and then you got your most recent job. How?
By getting contacted directly by the director, by keeping in touch with that director, and knowing that director previously. And so, and a lot of times rules are just rules because, oh, well, someone told me that. But when you actually look at it and think about it, it's not the most logical thing. It's the most logical thing is something else entirely. And you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense, but that's not the rule. Well, who cares? If that makes the most sense, then just do that. Most of the rules don't make sense. I don't know how we came up with them or who came up with a lot of them, but most of them are not the most efficient way to do anything.
Right, so I think we also discussed this. A lot of the rules are based on fear. Like, you're scared to stand out. You're scared of doing something that's abnormal. But often what we think is abnormal itself. And if you actually did the simplest thing, it turns out that's normal for people that are really successful. Like, the comparison I made was, imagine if Steve Jobs was finding out that he was trying to reproduce Word for Windows, but it didn't work on his operating system. The natural thing for him to do would just be call Bill Gates and get a copy of that for the iOS, and he would probably do that, and they might laugh about it, but that's probably what he would do, because that would just be the most direct thing, and it just makes the simplest sense. And so Just do the thing that's the simplest, right? The most obvious.
Yeah, do the thing that's the most direct, simplest. I mean, if you want to meet somebody, don't go through 5 people to meet that person. It's like, well, I want to try and introduce yourself to that person immediately. It just makes sense. Skip all the steps. But fear rules so many decisions for so many people. Well, what if this happens? Well, what if that happens? I really like the phrase, don't talk about it, do it, then we'll talk about it. So find out, like we've talked about the 3 steps in a science experiment. You have to form a hypothesis, conduct the experiment, then gather the results. And a lot of people just skip. Well, I have the results. I don't need to actually conduct the experiment. Conduct the experiment, see what the results are. You have no idea. The amount of times that I have come out of something thinking, wow, I never thought that was going to happen. I never thought if I did that, then that would come of it. You just never know. You never know, so you have to just try it.
So if you want something to happen, don't think of a really complicated way to do it. Just think of the simplest way to do it. And of course, I'm referring to acting. So if you want to meet someone, go meet them. If you think you have the right stuff for a part, or you just want to meet someone for the future because you don't know what's going on now, then just do it. Am I right?
Yeah.
Just
do it. Absolutely. There's no reason not to. And if there's fear, usually, even if the worst case scenario happens, you'll find out, oh, there was actually nothing.
What's the worst case scenario? What's the worst case scenario that can happen to an actor if they step out of what they think is the line and, take a shot at something, like, they call a producer, they call a director, or they drop in on a casting director? What's the worst case scenario?
You get hung up on, or you get asked to leave, or they get angry at you, all of which have never happened to me ever. Even before I booked the 3 feature films that I've done here, they never do that. They're just, they say thank you and or something. Like, nothing bad has ever happened, no matter the ridiculous things that I've tried. Nothing happens. And if anything does, like, it's always a good result. In one way or another, it's always something you can learn, or you form a relationship with someone or something. Nothing bad happens.
So they consider what you have to say, what you have to offer, and if it's in line with what they need, then they probably say, yeah, that sounds good. And if it's not, then they say, no, I can't really use your services right now. And maybe you come back another time when they can, and they can tell you the next time, does it make sense today?
Yeah.
Right? And because when something happens today, it's not related to the future, right? It's only true this moment. So don't associate what happens today with what might happen tomorrow, and what happens with one person, don't associate that happening with anyone else, because there isn't some grand conspiracy against actors, right?
No.
It's the opposite. There's a grand conspiracy to try and bring actors into the business because they need them. Am I right about that?
Yeah, and just because something has ever happened or not happened doesn't mean that it will or won't this time.
Right.
Even if it's something you've done the exact same way before, just because, oh, well, my other friends did it and this is what happened, doesn't have anything to do with what's going to happen with you this time if you try it.
Right, because we're actually standing out in the open here, and there has been lightning, apparently, within several miles of here, and yet we're here doing it anyway. Anyway, guys, just a quick one, just a fun little get-together reunion with Jason. And if you like this, give me a thumbs up. If you got any more questions, suggestions for videos, put them in the comment section below. And that's it. We'll talk to you soon.